Okay, would you like me to start?
Might as well, yeah. Good morning. This is a meeting of the Library Commission, Yachats Library Commission. It is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025 at 10:01 a.m. In attendance here is Mark Peterson, Street Shelhaz, Lane Morrill, and myself, Commission Chair David Ravinas. Thank you. And we also have Neil Morphus here and our administrator, Tracy Alton. So we'll go ahead and begin here. Are there announcements and any correspondence that anyone wishes to make? Okay, then we'll just go ahead right to the reports. Why don't we since we have to stay the whole time, would you mind if Neil went first and then, okay.
Oh,
Why don't you go ahead and we'll do it a little bit out of order.
Try to keep it fairly brief, but I put the CIP report in the packet. This fiscal year we spent $727,000 out of the 880,000, so we're still having another 150,000 to spend on the general contract. And then we also still have our 125,000 for interior furnishings. And I think we're gonna spend pretty much all of it. I think if we're gonna come within 1 or 2% of our budget number, it's gonna be tight, but it's gonna come right about where we want it to be. As far as progress goes over there, the general contractor's coming pretty close to finishing up. Lighting is in, carpet's in, all looks really good. I went out there with Rick last week and we looked around and we're trying to find if there were any issues, if they did anything wrong or things that need to be corrected. Most I could really find was just kind of a little spot on the front where the building met the sidewalk, and he said he was going to address that, and just little spots of touch-up paint. So he was already aware of it, that he was going to have to go back and do some touch-up paint, but it's all looking really nice over there. They're going to be doing some final work to get all the HVAC equipment up and running. And once they do, they're going to coordinate with Tracy to do a walkthrough and make sure that they know how to operate all the controls and everything like that. So that's going to be coming up pretty soon here. I have been talking with the interior designer, Michelle, and I've put the orders through for the bookcases for the exterior or perimeter of the wall, yeah, and then out in the middle of the room as well. The bookcases for the perimeter, pretty quick turnaround. We should be seeing them in about a month. The other ones for the middle of the room, they had originally told us 6 weeks out, but it's going to be closer to 2 months out, so it's a little bit further out than I was hoping for, but probably end of December, and so should still be able to open up in January, I think, but it's just it might be mid-January or towards the end of January. It's just they're waiting on their factory to produce the thing. So
is that a factory in the States or is that overseas? Or there?
No, I think it's here in the States. I think SD is the name of the manufacturer. Where it is, but yeah, it's a little bit of delay on that one. But in the meantime, we're going to order the other interior furnishings, and I think just store them in the conference room so that they're kind of out of the way from when everybody's trying to do their bookcase installs. So we'll be getting tables and chairs and that kind of thing, and just we'll stash them in that other room.
Are both the perimeter bookcases and the ones in the middle going to be installed by the manufacturers? Yeah. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that at all.
No. Okay. Both aware of all the seismic anchoring requirements that the engineer came up with for us. So yeah, Peter's requirements for 40202, so no worries there. We should be seeing some more detailed pictures of what the exterior, the perimeter bookcases are going to look like here in the next week or so. So I can forward that to you as well, so you know exactly what we're looking at there. But yeah, things are coming along really well.
I have a question about the teen and children's area. There are two smaller SD metal bookcases that are planned for that area. And if I want to change the positioning within that room, what kind of lead time do I need to make that decision? And would I go through you?
Yeah, if you let me know, then I can have it cleared by our interior person, and then let the manufacturer know too. But yeah, since we're looking at probably closer to 2 months out, I mean, we probably let them know anytime in the next month or so, and I think it'll be fine.
Okay, thank
As long as there's
you.
still room for like ADA and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Don't want to put them too close to the walls, so we're too close to each other.
okay. Okay, we're doing some planning for that room, and I think the positioning on the drawings that I have might be a little bit off from where we ultimately want them to be, but
Yeah,
okay.
it's not a big change. I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay.
What's going to happen to the driveway area right right to the north of the library?
So there were, for some reason, we didn't put it in the contract with the general contractor, but they've agreed to add it back in. They were trying to get road and driveway to do it, but they're having trouble getting road and driveway to agree on an exact date. And I know we've had some issues with that on the public works side, but I think they're trying to guess at the weather. And our general contractor said too that if road and driveway can't do it, they have other options. But since it was out of their contract, we're not going to hold them to that end date that we put in that contract. So they were planning on that happening next week or sort of the following week. It should be really quick. It's just road and driveway is not really giving them an exact date, and they're kind of getting a little nervous about it. They're hoping to get out of there soon. But yeah, in the next couple of weeks, I should be done here.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts, comments from anyone?
Neil, are there any plans right now for any electronics for the conference room?
Not yet, but I talked to Bobby about it, and she was thinking about like a big flat screen TV, if that would work for you guys.
Similar to what's in the meeting room in 501?
Yeah, or like this guy here or something like that. Yeah, do you think something like that would be big enough for you? Is that maybe a 55-inch or something like that?
Absolutely, I think so.
Pretty cheap, but just bought one for around $300, so I think
Well,
should be no problem to get one.
Oh, we'll be looking for two actually, because we want to do that electronic display
Oh, yeah.
out in the hallway. Been working with the friends on that, so
That's good.
maybe we can talk about that. That would probably be a smaller one. This would actually be larger than we need.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Okay.
with the amount of money that we're talking about, I don't think it's gonna be an issue at all.
this may be slightly premature, but there is a rumor that there's going to be an additional $10,000 available for the interior.
I hear that too.
Yeah, okay. So we'll just keep that as a rumor, but there might be a little bit of a fudge factor there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be coming up right on our budget number there, and
Yeah.
it'll be tight, but if depending on how it plays out, that the interior acoustic panels, we may or may not have to put them into next year's CIP budget, but I don't think that's a problem to do those after the fact.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna put them behind the bookcases, so they could always be added in later.
okay.
Yeah, I think if our interior designer may or may not agree, but to me, it seems like tables and chairs and everything they have to go in soon. And if we have to wait on the acoustics, I think that'd be okay.
I think the philosophy is that to make sure that we install all the things that are more or less permanent, and then things that are easily added later or exchanged later, that's what can be put on hold. So I think acoustic tiles would certainly come under that category. She did say there was some reverberation in there a little bit, but it wasn't horrible. So
What I was wondering about with that was the installation labor, because she had gave us a number, I think of 18,000, but that was just for parts, and she was kind of hoping that one of the library volunteers would be able to do the install, and I'm not sure if we have a volunteer that can do that kind of construction. Also, she was thinking that maybe a local contractor could oversee the work of a volunteer, and I'm not sure if somebody would be willing to do that or not.
Yeah.
We might be looking at just paying straight up for the labor for it, and so then that 18,000 could turn into.
Right.
25.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're saying no to it. I think it's just, it may have to be pushed back a little
yeah,
bit.
and that's fine. I mean, actually, among the discussions we had early in the game was, okay, maybe we can just build a frame and then slowly but surely over the years may turn it into a library. So we've actually done very well. Yeah. Well, thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. Any other thoughts?
I walked through the building yesterday, as I have quite a few times during the summer, and it's really looking nice.
Yeah.
Really looking nice, and the workmanship is good.
Yeah.
It's really well done. Especially, the wood trim. Really done a good job on that. Really adds to the space.
I have been actually, okay, is there wood that I can knock on here? Pleasantly surprised at the universal response to the library, which has been positive. I keep waiting to hear all the things that somebody's really upset about. And I have yet to hear anything along those lines, so.
I'll volunteer this. Somebody had brought up that this isn't a requirement for ADA, but it's an optional thing to have the push buttons to open the doors to the front. We hadn't added that into the contract, and it's confirmed with the architect. It's not a requirement to have that for ADA, and we're going to meet all the ADA requirements, but it's an optional thing, and so it might be another thing that we can add in next year's schedule.
We can consider down the road. Yeah, fantastic.
And try to be as accessible as we can, and so it can be added in. It'll probably be another 20,000 or so, because you have to do all three doors at the front, because there's
Right.
two into the vestibule and then
Right.
one after the vestibule, so each one's around 6,000 or so, and so we might be another thing to add for next year's CIP budget for a complete building.
Fantastic.
One of the really cool features is the industrial grade stainless steel gutters and downspouts.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch.
Don't want anything rusting away.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Any comments? Neil, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. We're excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna have soon. Yes, that's my bottom line. That's what I always say, soon. All right, budget report?
This will be quick. We are 2 months into the current fiscal year budget. That is 16.67% of the months. And all of our categories are at or under 16.66% of the total budget as of the end of August. So we're in great shape.
Okay. That's good to know. Let's spend some more. Yeah, I figured there wouldn't be a problem with that. Okay, anybody want to make any comments or thoughts about the budget, other than it would be nice if it were twice the size it is, but, okay. So the next report has to do with a discussion regarding the grand opening. And there are a couple of things that we need to figure out fairly soon. And one of them is general for everyone, and that is, could you please keep in mind any individuals whom you feel should receive an official invitation, right? So, I mean, this could be donors, this could be people who worked very hard on it, officials, state officials, anybody who, for example, I know that that the Ford Family Foundation is definitely going to receive an invitation. Marg, you're going to receive an invitation, even though I think you'll be there under other circumstances. But it's these kinds of things. If you can think of anyone who ought to be officially recognized, if you could let me know, and I will compile a list of all those individuals who should be part of that, especially if it's like volunteers who are working for the library. I mean, this has taken now, since I've been on board, 7 years. So, I mean, there's been quite a bit of turnover, and just to remember, Janet Hickam, for example, those kinds of, those individuals who are very, very central to the library. Some of them have passed away. So if we can just really make a list of all those that we can mention in the grand opening, that would be important. And then I don't think anybody's decided yet who exactly is sponsoring this party. And I think that's maybe something that I need to bring up at the next chairs meeting. My own take is, well, I think this is a city building, and so it would seem to me that the entity sponsoring it would be the city. But maybe I'm wrong about that, and I will find that out and make sure we know, because there ought to be somebody in charge. And the rest of us can give feedback and input. But right now, it's just sort of this nebulous thing up in the clouds that's being tossed around. So I will find that out and let everybody know about that. Any thoughts, comments about that?
Does the Friends of the Library, do they have a list of donors?
I have asked them for a list, and their list was pretty short. And I think I'm going to encourage them to lengthen it, because I'm sure there are others who have given. I mean, maybe that's something we could decide right now, is what would be the smallest donation that would qualify as someone who receives an invitation, like $1,000 or $5,000, or does anybody have any thoughts, any ideas on precedent that has been set for other organizations in the past? Okay, well, I think they came up with 2 names, and both of them were foundations that gave considerably. And I think maybe we should recognize some others too, that have given a lesser amount, but still significantly. So I'll get on that and see about that. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay. From the library administrator.
So, one thing I was hoping to do as a group going forward is to make decisions in tandem with the commission on what goes on the walls. So I've spoken to the Yachats, I'm still, we're not putting some of their hard work out, talked to Bobby about that, maybe replicating what they've done in City Hall with art that is either for purchase with hopefully small commission to the library, or rotating art. But I did have one other thing to talk about, and that is that Dave Baldwin came in to the library on Tuesday, and he offered 2 of his paintings as a gift to the library. So I was hoping, I had given him my email, I was hoping he would email me a picture of those two paintings so I could share it with you before the meeting today, but he hasn't done it yet. So I will send that out to everybody as soon as he sends me a picture. He said they are Shakespeare-ish or Shakespeare. But I love his artwork. I don't know if you're all familiar, but it's very colorful, it's bold. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of Picasso. Yeah, and so, but those would be gifts, and so those would be permanently on the walls. And I don't know the sizes yet either, but I want to give everybody a heads up. And like I said, I don't want to unilaterally make any decisions about what goes on the wall. There's one exception. I'd like to, and I've talked to David about this, do a small plaque honoring Jane Shea, who was our children's librarian for 12 years and had helped with the planning of the current children's and teens area in the new library. So that's the only thing, the only request I have for something I definitely want on the wall. And then, as we've talked about, and I think you might have all heard, but I'm not sure, the Friends is willing to foot the bill for a television monitor that would sit in the entryway between the doorway that leads to the Friends room and the reception area. And we would build it so that it scrolls through donor recognitions. So it would take the place of what we had before, which were wood plaques, little metal frames that were engraved on the wood plaques. So
We do have a little small bronze plaque too, with the.
oh, yes, at the Friends,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So, yes, there's the site done now, and I don't think they've landed on the spot that they want to
Haven't heard
remember
that.
that yet.
I haven't.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right, and remind me, the dedication on that is to
Just donors, I think, and the Ford family.
okay, okay. Okay, so three things. One, the television screen and the scroll through donors, the plaque for Jane, and this plaque.
I think there's plenty of wall space in the library.
Visioning, and I know that there is a little, there's some walls that jut out directly across from the reception desk, and I had talked to Jeremy. He thought those walls were going to be empty, other than there would be a computer with a catalog that fits into that little nook, if you will, but the walls around it would probably be empty. We've got the walls in the meeting room, and but other than that, the perimeter is all going to be the most part bookcases, right? So we'd be looking at maybe art that's sitting up.
Yeah.
But I can't really envision what's left once the bookcases go in. There's much, but it would be nice to do that as a group and make those decisions going forward about what we put on walls. And that doesn't have to be in the minute.
Yeah.
I think Dave would be looking for an answer soon. But other than that, you know, working with the Arts Guild and such, we can do that. And then it made it the next meeting. I'm not, yeah, I don't think that's a burning issue. The other thing I wanted to say is that I've done some preliminary, and I thought I was going to end up with a number of holes, but I ended up with all of the shifts being filled. Now, matching what we had previously on 7th Street means 12 to 4 on Mondays and Fridays, 12 to 5 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And it used to be 1 to 4 on Saturday. I'm inclined to make that 12 to 3, just so that the opening is always at noon and there's not one day that's a little bit later. So I don't know, I haven't really spoken with anybody, Bobby or the commission, on what your expectations are in terms of hours, but I can match what we have. And then potentially have more open hours in the morning down the road. I don't know if you have any strong feelings about the hours the building is open.
My only thought is I think the idea of making it open at the same time every day is a really good one. I think that's wise. And yeah, the idea of maybe, you know, we can increase or change down the road. I mean, that what you're suggesting would be a great, to my mind, a great starting point. Don't know if anybody has other thoughts on
I
that.
agree.
I don't think there's large, we tried being open in the mornings in the past. And there's not a large demand for being open any earlier than noon, but certainly with brand new building, moving in.
Yeah.
Seeing, consider more open hours, but that's also a Bobby conversation too. Speaking of Bobby, she said that the children's librarian bid would be out by the end of this month. That was planned. I should couch that in, that was your intention. I don't know that it'll 100% be that way. I would love to get a children's librarian on board to help with the planning of that area. There's a few of us that have started working on what we think should go where in the children's area. It's a little bit more of a challenge because the books on the adult side, if you will, are really easy to estimate in terms of what I can put on a 3-foot shelf. The books are basically similar in size, with the exception of nonfiction. There's some large oversized books in nonfiction, but on the fiction side, it's pretty easy to estimate, and I think those are gonna go around the perimeter. With the kids' books, boy, there are adult size, everything from adult size to like a pamphlet. I mean, and there's lots and lots of those. So we're trying to work through what makes sense to have it displayed and be user friendly. So we're having those conversations right now. Any questions for me? Because I do have an update on ebooks and audiobooks, but any questions for me about the administrative side of books?
Any thoughts from anyone?
I just wanted to bring up one thing, and this relates to something that I heard secondhand during the summer, was that, and it's safety related. Someone came into the library and just here in the commons and just laid down on the floor and went to sleep. And so that made me think of safety issues. Do we need to relook or think about safety, considering we're moving into a new, bigger building? That
In this design or sight lines, with the exception of the conference room from the reception area. So, and with that in mind, because the way we had the library set up previously, the children's area was in the back of the library, kind of away from things. You couldn't always see what was happening in there. And we did have to move out tables because people would curl up underneath them. So I don't know, I haven't heard that. So was that something that happened in the library?
I think so, yeah. Well, I think one of the volunteers mentioned it to my wife, and
Okay.
so,
That is news to me.
yeah, and I know we had talked, I think we had a safety procedure where if the volunteers were concerned, they would contact you or
Right.
the
So,
person to.
someone able-bodied nearby, geographically nearby, so.
Yeah, it kind of depends. They've been instructed, depending on the assessment of threat,
Right.
as to whether they should be calling the sheriff's office. And then maybe including, I mean, Public Works is right there too, so they've got guys that are willing to come over if there's an issue. And then, of course, contacting the city as well. And probably me somewhere in that loop, just to make me aware. But I think our sight lines are good. My only concern is the conference room has what I understand will be some sort of folding door that will separate it from the reading area.
That's correct. They're glass. Yeah.
We'll just need to decide, do we want that open or closed?
Yeah.
Because unless I've got something like an Anacam in the conference room, which I think may be doable anyway, then it gives us line of sight into that room if we decide that we want to keep it open and available to people to go in there and sit and use their computers. Because I do have a lot of people that come in with laptops, and that would be the most likely area for someone to come in and use their laptop. But we would mean leaving the doors open, and then I would lose line of sight without some sort of camera in there.
Are these glass sliding doors opaque or?
No, okay, I've not seen them. It's my understanding they're in a wooden frame, and it's see-through glass. And
See through, yeah.
Oh,
So you just go to the south side and you can look right into the room there. You'll see it from that front desk.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that's my
Yeah.
concern. We wouldn't want to keep walking over them.
the camera idea is a really good one.
I think you can get them relatively inexpensively to have some sort of monitoring.
Yeah.
Then we would feel freer to leave it open, and like I said, it's very user friendly to have for laptops to be able to go and sit in it.
I would just like to comment that I sat with Tracy through a demonstration of one of these monitors, these thank you type monitors. And you've now spoken with a couple of companies. But just the one that I attended it was pretty amazing what can be done. I mean, it's almost like web designing, that you can have different backgrounds and you can make different fonts, and so it's quite versatile, quite attractive. And then you can make them go by as fast or as slowly as you want. And you can also, let's say one of the things you wanted to advertise was an event that was going to happen. You can program it so that the advertisement will be part of the program until the event, and then it automatically deletes that. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah, they're pretty flexible.
Yeah.
It seems pretty user friendly.
Yeah.
You can build, like you said, what's called a carousel, which would be a rotating display. And you could schedule that. So we could, if we're open, say 12 to 4, you could schedule 12 to 1 and maybe 3 to 4. And in the middle, you have announcements. I mean, it seems very flexible and user friendly. But I'm glad you mentioned it, because I failed to mention the fact that with the second company, we can purchase the actual unit that runs to the television, and then it's Wi-Fi from the computer. So you build your account with the company, you upload everything, you schedule everything, and then it's wireless into their little, like larger Fire Stick is what basically it is. And so is there any need to, from friends didn't think so, for any type of security measures around that? In other words, can we just go out and buy this particular piece of hardware and go right ahead and start using it? Or is this a question for NBS? Or she doesn't think you could hack into something like a Fire Stick. So it's similar to that.
It's something connected to a secure network. I mean, we haven't set up the networks over there yet, but I think you'll probably have one for staff and one for public, and then I would only connect it to the staff one just to be on the safe side. I can't picture anybody hacking it though. Even if it was connected to public Wi-Fi, it takes somebody to really know what they were doing to get into that.
Okay, and are these decisions that can be made between myself and the friends in terms of what's purchased?
They're paying for it or something?
I believe they are.
Okay. I think we need to get clear by anybody that.
Okay, the only question I had was on the security side of things and making sure that I'm not doing anything rogue that has the potential for any type of danger.
I don't think you'd get hacked. No, I don't think.
I
think you would be okay. Just make sure that you get onto the secure network on the Wi-Fi. It's not good.
yes, sorry,
No,
you were talking about.
no, that's great. Yeah.
We've talked to, the second one is a little bit more attractive than the first one in terms of pricing. So it's likely we would go through them, but it does seem like, the support is there. It's pretty user friendly. It's easy to upload different files, and it's pretty easy to schedule them. So I think we're kind of good to go. And it's nice, I think, to have that rotating donator recognition versus the plaques on the wall. I think we can make it bigger, brighter. Names can be larger. It just, people don't have to go find their family on this little tiny metal plaques. So I think it'll be a nice addition. It was something that Sandy Dunn had championed. So I want to recognize her for that.
Yeah.
I think it was a great idea, and the friends are gonna give it the town. So. Okay, I will give you all what I have for ebooks and audiobooks. I will tell you that there's nothing really remarkable here. I mean, we continue to have pretty strong demand for both. And these are all numbers since the beginning of time, which was July of 2021. So they're cumulative, we've now got them quarterly. Sorry, I did not get this to you in time.
No worries, no worries.
Okay. So let's see, the far right column at the top is where we are at as of 9/30/2025, because I do it on a quarterly basis. You can I ran it a few times and still came up with 18, but it should be closer to the 76 to 69. And what that is all the books that are checked out, how many of them are ebooks and audiobooks? How many are items that we have purchased an extra copy of for local use? So I apologize for that number. I ran it a few times. I don't think it's right though, so I'm gonna have to look into that. But any questions from me about ebooks and audiobooks? Each month I add about anywhere from 8 to 10 of ebooks and audiobooks to our local library. So it just mainly adds a copy that's available to anyone, any of our patrons that are specific to Yachats Public Library. And then we get billed per item usage for those extra copies. So when there's something out there that is in great demand, it just gives our patrons a leg up, couple copies. The budget is set and it just decrements down as people put books out. Some months we don't go through the whole budget in the entire month. Other months we go through the whole budget in 2 to 3 weeks. It's unpredictable. But it's just a little added extra that we give our local patrons on top of the subscription, which gives them the 60,000 copies of books, or 60,000 book titles edition. Sometimes they have to get in line for it.
Well, it seems like it's growing.
It's growing,
Yeah.
it's growing slowly,
Yeah.
but it's growing. And yeah, we've got some pretty voracious users. So a lot of I think we've got about 170 that use it every month, but of that, maybe 30 or 40 are using it most often. Okay.
Great, sounds good. Thank you. Anything else for Tracy? Thank you, Tracy, appreciate it. Okay, so let's see, next is the library friends. And I'll just give a little preamble here, which I think everybody knows anyway. They suffered some significant losses in the last quarter. 2 of their 5 board members passed away. One was, of course, the light behind the whole organization, and then the other one was the go-to person who was involved in putting all the books in order and on shelves and so forth. So they were pretty paralyzed for a while. They're in the process of regrouping. For the time being, they have requested not to attend these meetings. We'll see how that goes. They have expressed very strong continued commitment to the library and to being friends of the library. They just need to reinvent themselves a little bit to figure out how they want to design their participation in the future. So they did send a couple of emails. Sume sent some emails, and Marg, would you read those?
Yeah. This one from Sume, Library Board President, Library Friends Board President.
Right.
On Monday, FOYL is Friends of Yachats Library, made the following board changes. We are going back to a 3-person board for the time being. The officers are Sue May, President, Maggie Marshall, Treasurer, and Nancy Lamvick, Secretary. We have paused our book donations for the immediate future while we determine what we can or cannot handle going forward. We continue to accept monetary donations and will continue to support library projects you choose to bring to us for funding. This last month, we earned around $2,000 at our Labor Day book sale. We received an unsolicited check for $2,000 from Trust Management just because we are a good cause. And today we sold a donated book on eBay for $1,950. We will have new plans in the upcoming year. Now we are going to handle further book donations and sales. We will continue to do all we can to raise funds for the library.
Okay, thank you.
eBay books was.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I have not asked yet which book sold, but I will. I know that was one of your
Yeah,
questions.
Just was curious.
Yeah, no, I will find out for you. Tracy, I had a question for you. In as much as the Friends are not accepting any book donations, is there any way for anybody to donate books, or should we just put that completely on hold for now?
Moment, no, when people come in and offer, I've asked that they hold on to them to the new buildings. Running, and that seems to be going okay. I mean, we had a steady flow of donated books, so we've kind of curbed that for now, but I think soon we'll be back in donating business. And to piggyback on the Friends plans, the last I had heard is they hope to cut down on the number of book sales during the year, but to have more books for sale, because we have books now for $1 or $2 in rebate. They hope to have more books for sale and actually give us their, I don't know if it's a Square unit or who exactly runs their credit card portable chargers, but to give that, give one of them to me and then have librarians trained on the ability to take payment through that. So I think that's great for free, but it's very hard. Those book sales are very labor intensive.
Yeah.
And this is a good way to have books available all the time for sale.
And would that be in the Friends room in the library, that those books would be available?
So we'll have, I believe, yes. We'll have to figure out how to make that room comfortable for patrons to be able to walk into and peruse, because when we get book donations, and that's where the donated books will go, they frequently come in paper bags and boxes, and so we'll just need to figure out the aesthetics of how to do that, but that I believe was the plan.
Yeah, I to just add a little bit to that, last time I talked to Sue, they were talking about using 8 of the old bookcases in there and have them all around the wall, and so presumably someone would be coming in on a reasonably regular basis and taking the books out of the boxes and bags and shelving them up there. So
We also have the volunteers.
Mhm.
If Sue gives the volunteers an idea on what she'd like to see, I can add that to the volunteer tasks.
Okay.
So I think we can partner on some of that.
Okay. All right. And anything more? Thanks, Marg. And anything more about the Friends here? So our next order of business, we will bypass. I don't know what happened to Marilyn. I hope everything's okay. And we will try again to bring her on board. So the only other thing on the agenda here is just to talk about a little bit more about the future of this commission. And just to affirm that now is not the time to make that decision. That there's plenty going on, but also again, to keep it in mind, I know, for example, the Friends have said their cooperation with whatever entity this might become in the future would be much simpler if it were not quite as formal and having to go to public meetings and so forth. If it ends up being like an advisory team, then it could not be called a board of directors. A board of directors would require then to have the same kinds of public meetings that we have now. But it could be a committee, like the Trails Committee, something along those lines. Yeah,
So committees technically have to have the same public meeting law.
okay.
So the Trails team is now a work group.
Okay, so we could turn into a work group. Okay, let's get the names right here.
It's under the city manager and
Yeah.
the city manager directly, but they don't have to have public meetings.
Thank you for that correction. Yeah. Yeah, so the idea would be to try to avoid this because this is cumbersome for the kinds of things that we're trying to accomplish. So it's just something to keep in mind. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Any other business, anything anybody wants to bring up? All right, well then, thank you all. I will look into Maryland, find out what happened. I imagine, I hope it's something very simple. And thanks, Kimmy, as always, and I adjourn the meeting.